Apologies for the technical difficulty. How long have I been vegan? I have been vegan since 2013, but I haven't had meat since 2002. So, but I was vegetarian for the longest time there, and then I went vegan in 13. Why did you go vegan? Well, I thought as a vegetarian that I thought that I was doing something positive. I guess I was a brainwash. You know, I wasn't fully educated. This is why education is so paramount. And then I came across some videos of chick grinding from the egg industry and the horrors of the dairy industry. Even though I really didn't consume a lot of dairy, I did consume a good deal of eggs, and I did occasionally have cheese. I guess it was, I did have a lot of whey protein, I suppose. That was my go-to protein powder back then, was whey protein. But when I realized the horrors of the dairy industry, the egg industry, that's when I decided that, you know, I was actually still feeding the problem. For that reason, I decided I would go vegan. Okay. Where in the UK are you? I was actually in London for a couple weeks, and I've been in Brighton this week, and I'm currently in Brighton. So that's where I am right now. I'm actually near the beach in Brighton. I'm like just about a 5-minute walk from the beach and another 5-minute walk from the Downs. But the Downs are so, I'm so fair-skinned that it's so fucking hot here. This week it's been so fucking hot that like I have to have a fucking umbrella because the sun is killing me. So I actually prefer going to the beach. I've been to Lewis recently. I went to some castles in Lewis, and actually I was talking about this before the chat, when the chat was just beginning, before I knew anyone was even commenting, because I didn't even see these comments at first. I had some separate chat box open. Anyway, moving along. Yes, you are having some good weather for a change, but it's brutally hot, or it has been this week. It kind of peaked around Wednesday. Every non-vegan says it's bad. This is about anti-nutrients. It's one of the reasons they can't be vegan, or it's dangerous for me to only live on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, anti-nutrients are a thing. You can cook a lot of them out. You can also sprout them out. And you can ferment products to remove anti-nutrients as well. So for instance, take tofu, which has trypsin inhibitors in it. If you're concerned about it, you can always you can sprout your own soybeans and create tofu from that, or you can buy sprouted tofu. In America, there are brands like, I think, Neo Soya. Am I pronouncing that right, or am I even remembering it right? And then there's one called Wildwood, which is one of my favorite brands. And they do a sprouted tofu. Both of them do a sprouted tofu product. You could also just cook it, and you'll remove anywhere between 80 and 90% of the anti-nutrient content, and fermenting. So things like tempeh would be void of anti-nutrients because it is fermented. And does the same thing with beans or anything else. You can sprout beans, nuts, and seeds, and it can remove the anti-nutrient content as well. So natto, for instance, the Japanese delicacy, which I've come to find apparently is bad tasting. I haven't tried it yet myself, but I did a video including natto recently. And natto is fermented, so it would not have those anti-nutrients. So people who are concerned about the anti-nutrients, they're just clutching at more excuses not to go vegan. And even still, I don't necessarily sprout or ferment all of my foods. I do cook a good majority of my foods. With the exception of like fruits and some vegetables, I don't cook. Like if I have a salad, I won't cook it. But yeah, most of my foods are cooked, so I don't really worry about it too much. What is my profession, and how do I balance fitness and nutrition in a busy life? Are there any specific tips or tricks that I have? Okay, I work in the financial world, and that's really like a 9 to 6 kind of job, and I work in New York City, so it's very fast paced. So I guess the way I do it is I live a very structured lifestyle. I very much ensure that, like, okay, if I'm working from 9 to 6, I'll get home, I'll change, I might have some coffee or some pre-workout supplements or something, and then I'll go to the gym, and then I'll come back, I'll have dinner, and then I'll go to bed. and then wash, rinse, repeat. I don't work out in the mornings except on the weekends, so otherwise I have to get really, really early to make that work. So that's really how it's all about scheduling. I'd say like it can be tricky, but if you think about the things that might take up a lot of time, like wasting time on Facebook, wasting time on other social media, TV and things like that. See, I don't have television. I eliminated television from my life in 2007. So you find that there's a lot of things that might be taking up your time that you could easily be doing without. You could easily just be getting rid of, and then suddenly find more time. And really, so that's really the big trick, I guess. That the tip is really just plan your time, balance your day, balance your time. I don't know how better way to put that. Really, that's how it works for me. Now, things do sometimes happen. There'll be things that might happen. Maybe you have to work late, or maybe a family emergency, or you're sick, or whatever. And then what you just want to do is you want to ensure that you get it done another day. So if I'm sick, for instance, I'll take whatever time I need off the gym. If it's like more than just like a head cold, I'll take all the time that I need off the gym to fully recover. And then usually it's about a week. And then I'll come back to the gym. But what I'll do is I'll maintain my diet in maintenance calories with enough protein to maintain my muscle mass, even if it means I can only drink it. So I make protein shakes basically with like blended fruit or whatever, because when you're sick, sometimes you can't keep food down. So liquid food's easier. But other than that, like let's say that I just can't one day make the gym that day, I'll do it the next day, and I'll put the gym session that would have been on the following day, so it's not back to back if I'm doing every other day. I'll put that on the next day. And sometimes life just happens and you have to work with it. Or if I can get in the gym earlier and make an exception that day, I'll do that. You just juggle, you make things work. You kind of it's like a puzzle, you connect the pieces. I already answered why I turned vegan. How can I get my blood tested for free in the UK? Look, I have no idea. I'm not from the UK. I'm just visiting the UK. I do get here often, but I'm not on the NHS or anything like that, so I really can't tell you. Maybe perhaps talk to your doctor. I think that's how it might work here. How old are you? I am 35. Thank you for saying that. I look 26, but talk like I'm 38. I'm 35, and frankly, I've always talked this way. I read a lot when I was a child. My mother was a teacher, and she was an orator of children's stories in her spare time to other kids. So you could say that I guess I was always exposed to, grammar and grid literature and speaking skills and that sort of thing. So I suppose that's why I talk the way I do. How do I optimize calcium intake? Vegan food is highly acidic. I've covered this in videos prior. Really just get enough of it. I mean, like this whole acid-base thing when it comes to dieting, people talking about how they have to alkalize their body. Your body will alkalize itself, really. You breathe, your body will alkalize itself. I don't really concern myself over any of that. So just get enough ample nutrients, eat enough, nutrient-rich, fruits and veggies and everything else. And with things like, I believe like spinach and broccoli, you're going to get plenty of calcium. Soy products have a lot of calcium. Actually, they're very high in calcium. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that soy products, like soy milk, for instance, is actually higher in calcium than regular milk. And everyone pushes regular milk for your bones, when in reality, you don't need it. You don't need any of that. So, and I believe I've read or heard that it could actually be detrimental to your bones. But don't hold me on that right now. I have to do more research on that. That dairy products can be actually detrimental to your long-term bone health. But like I said, don't hold me on that. I'd have to do more research on that. That's just something that I believe I've read or overheard. But I can get to that in a later video. How can he not see the questions? I was having a problem when I started this Q&A. There was something going on with my screen. I don't know. It's all sorted out now, and it's working. Let's see, I've already answered some of these. Another the person's asking again, for different levels like B12 and testosterone and stuff, can you get those blood tests for free in the UK? I have no idea. Like I said, I'm not from the UK. So talk with your doctor about that. I would imagine that if you have a problem, the NHS might cover it. I mean, like if you literally have a problem where you think there might be an issue where you need your blood checked for something like B12, which is a pretty serious thing, or your testosterone levels, if you think there might be a problem, get your blood work checked. Do I have any pets? I used to. I rescued birds. I've had all sorts of birds. I've had finches, cockatiels, parakeets. I've had a number of them that were then born in my presence, like in my care, by existing birds that I had. So I've had those, but a lot of them, they've all passed along now. You know, sadly, my cockatiel I had when I was living in Australia, and it escaped. See, I let my birds be free range within my my home, my dwelling, because they often can just find their way back to their cage. I just monitor windows and doors and everything. But there was an accident, and I lost one of my birds that flew out a window in Australia. Yeah, everyone's asking about the chat. I'm just getting through some initial questions now. The chat wasn't working at first. I had like a blank. It was like, I don't know how to describe it. The screen was fucked up or something. What flavor goes well with True Nutrition blends? I personally find that the chocolate and banana flavors go really well. Chocolate hides pea protein's base flavor, that kind of earthy flavor, really, really well. Chocolate's probably one of the best things to hide that. And so I definitely use chocolate a lot. But of the True Nutrition flavors, anything with the banana flavor in it is awesome. Is a 2,000 calorie deficit okay? That's absurd. I mean, like, is this just wow? Okay, are you talking about just by your diet alone? That's an absurd calorie deficit. If you're just not looking at what you spend in your daily activities and lifting and cardio or anything like that, you really shouldn't do a deficit. Like, I don't personally recommend to my clients a deficit more than like 200 to 500 calories below your maintenance needs. Like, I never recommend anything more drastic than that. You know, I always recommend slow and steady and let it go that way, as opposed to like taking a deep dive. And so 2,000 calorie deficit sounds pretty severe if that's from your diet. I mean, like, what the hell is your maintenance? I mean, like, that would be like, what are you taking yourself to 500 calories a day? That sounds starvation to me. Like you're starving yourself, and I don't advise that. But if that's by virtue of, I mean, I guess ultimately, if it's by virtue of your diet and your training together, what are your results looking like? Are you maintaining muscle? And losing fat, or are you burning both? I mean, is your strength going down? Is it maintaining or going up? You got to take all this into consideration. My advice is never let yourself drop more than about between 1 and 2 pounds of body weight per week. Max 2 pounds. Don't go below that. That's just my advice, because I like to keep it strictly fat loss as much as possible and maintain, if not add muscle during a cutting phase. What are my squat, bench, and deadlift numbers? Some people have kind of looked at me before and laughed because I don't really do 1RMs. I'm not a power lifter. My deadlift is like, for 5 to 8 reps, it's 400 pounds-ish. I'm remembering the top of my head. My bench is around 205 for 8 reps. And I haven't back squatted in a while. I've been doing front squats. And actually, while I've been in the UK, I've taken a break from squats and deadlifts because I think it's always good to give your body a chance. And I was feeling some aches in my joints, and I thought it would be a good way to lighten up my loads. And I was doing dumbbell benching instead of barbell benching. I dropped deadlifts for a bit, and I dropped squats for a bit. And that's what I was doing here. So anyway, those are the numbers that I have. Like I said, I don't know anything about what the competitive numbers are. I'm not a competitive power lifter. I do bodybuilding for aesthetics and for health and for martial arts, really. and it serves those purposes well the way I train currently. I don't even compete in bodybuilding because I have no interest in going below like 8 to 10% body fat at all. Like that's just my goals. I don't really have any interest in that stage competition of like 4 to 6%. It's not healthy, and it's certainly not sustainable. But even for a short term, it from what I've seen in the research, doesn't appear that healthy. So I'd rather basically keep my balls working, essentially. How did you convince yourself to become a vegan activist? I'm not really ready to start a YouTube channel or anything, but I live in a rural area where vegans aren't very common. What inspired me? I never really saw myself as becoming a vegan activist. I saw myself as an educator, I guess is the way to look at it. Like I acquired this lifestyle. I embarked upon it, and I've noticed the benefits in my health. At least, this is N=1. This is total anecdote, but I noticed my own personal benefits in my health, like rashes clearing up I used to get from dairy, for instance, and regularity. Sorry for being kind of descriptive there. And I didn't notice any effect on my muscle or strength. In fact, it's been exactly the same as before I was vegan. My muscle and strength gains. My sex drive is the same, if not better. But I'm not saying that's because of veganism. That's probably just because of how active I am. But whatever the case is, when it comes to the ethics of veganism, yeah, I do talk about those because these, I think, are very important things. And it's what switched me into veganism, really, was realizing what was really going on out there. And I thought that I was doing a good thing. And then I realized I was actually still contributing to the problem. I never really saw myself as an activist so much as somebody who wants to educate and help others see what I see and understand what I understand. And because I'm a logical person and I'm a fact-driven sort of person, I thought, what better way to do it than to present everything in a factual, evidence-based approach, and to help not just vegans who want to learn how to argue the ethics, but also help vegans who are interested in improving their aesthetics, their athletics, etc. And that's really where I'm coming from, at like an educational standpoint. But by virtue of that, I suppose that that causes me to end up being an activist, I suppose. I'm not trolling. Everyone thinks I'm trolling because the chat wasn't working. The chat was not working. I was having a fucking problem, and my girlfriend had to help me out with that, because sometimes two minds are better than one, and I couldn't figure out this is not even my fucking computer. Okay, I'm like, so just, do I believe in the hollow earth theory? I've read about it before, but I don't think so. I don't believe in it. No, I don't see. There's no evidence for it. I mean, it's an interesting story. It's interesting. Even the flat earther stuff is interesting for a laugh to listen to, but I'm not a flat earther either. Actually, one of my first passions was astronomy, and still is, like space, and even like things like extraterrestrials and what you would call pseudoscience or paranormal or whatever. It interests me. I don't necessarily know if it's real, but it interests the hell out of me because it makes you think. It gives you something to ponder and think about, and it's interesting. What is the most effective way you have found to build muscle and lose fat in a vegan diet? I have been a vegan for a few months and a vegetarian for over a year. I would say that it's not any different than when you're a meat eater or when you're a vegetarian. Just follow your macros, ensure you're getting the protein, fat, and carbohydrate content that you need, and the calories you need. Really, that's really about it. But if you're interested, you can be sure to check out the Vegan Muscle Academy, which is actually a service that I provide. If you'd like to work with me directly, I do offer a variety of services. There's a group coaching sort of service, and then there's individual programs as well. Yes, I can see you guys. Everyone keeps asking how old I am. I am 35 years old. So there you go. It's not in my backyard. People are asking if this is my backyard, that it's nice. It's not my backyard. Okay, I'm just trying to find. I'm trying to find some more pictures. Do I live in Hollow Earth? Everyone's asking about the Hollow Earth. What is up with this? Is something? Is there something going on right now with the Hollow Earth that I don't know about? Everyone's asking about it. What are your thoughts? What are my thoughts on the ECA stack for cutting and ephedrine? Don't fuck with it. Like I say, I don't touch those kinds of things. Like I don't recommend these kinds of supplements, and just I don't recommend a lot of these fat burning supplements. Period, because you don't know what they're lacing them with. And I've seen some reports where they've been putting things like hardcore drugs into these, like DMP, for instance, into these products. Even just a little bit of it is just enough to cause a bit of an effect. And that, I don't like to see people hurting themselves. I did a recent video on testosterone boosters too. I don't advise any of that. Just there are some supplements I agree with, like amino acids, depending on the situation you're in. Creatine, I do use that, and it's so dirt cheap that even if it's a small amount, some people might be a hyper responder, some people might be a non-responder, but you don't really know until you try. But it's dirt cheap. It's like, $20 can get you enough creatine to last you a few months. So things like that. Beetroot, I've been really using beetroot a lot lately for the pumps and the endurance aspect. None of these things give you drug-like effects, but I definitely can say that when my beetroot runs out, when I've trained without caffeine in the past, I have certainly noticed a difference in my strength and my performance. Not so much my energy levels, but my strength and my performance. But yeah, I mean, I do use some of the supplements that seem to have a decent body of research. So like creatine, beta-alanine, beetroot, BCAAs, or EAAs, depending on what's on hand. And of course, a protein powder. I personally use a pea, rice, and soy blend protein powder. And yeah, I mean, so those are really the supplements that I use instead. I don't use these blends. I don't recommend you guys going out and supporting Muscle Tech or any of these other fucking companies. I don't recommend that, and their proprietary blends. You don't even know what they're sticking in that shit. And a lot of these things that even if they are researched, they're underdosed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But ephedrine, I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but I have read some things that it can hurt you, so stay away from that. If I could afford it, would I be interested in gene doping? I've heard a bit about it, but I don't use drugs myself, and I will use them if I need them for some medical purpose. Like, so if I need testosterone replacement therapy, yeah, sure, I'll get on it. But when it comes to any of these kind of things, like this is me personally, so don't take this. I'm not trying to offend anyone who uses drugs, but I just like to go to the gym and lift and see what I can do. I don't need these things because I'm not competing. I'm not a professional model or something, and I don't need these kinds of things. I just enjoy the process of eating food, going to the gym, lifting, and just watching my body change, even if that takes me 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 times as long as the guy on drugs. That's just the way I look at it. And it's not because I think I'm holier than thou or anything that, or better than somebody who takes drugs. That's just the way I look at it. And I don't really know what some of these things are going to do to my body. So, one of the things that scares me about steroids, to be honest, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, is that I don't know if it's going to shut me down. What if I come off a cycle or something and I just don't, my balls don't work anymore, basically. I'm not willing to take that risk. I just want to lift and enjoy what I do and look as good as I can and not have to resort to those kinds of things and keep myself functioning as nature intended, not to make an appeal to nature, but as nature intended. So basically that's that. This person keeps asking about blood work in the UK. I don't know anything about that. Potato industry says whey protein would break out in hives. Dairy used to make me break out in an upper chest rash and a rash across my forehead. If I would, and even a little bit of it, if I would have dairy in a given day, if it was a day that I was training and I took whey protein, you can bet that I would have a rash across this area and this area by the end of the day. And the more consecutive days that I would have dairy in a row, the rash would get worse and worse and worse. And I would be quizzed about it, like at work or by friends or family, like, asking me what's wrong. You know, you look like you have an allergy, or did I get a sunburn? It's like dead of winter or something, you know? So yeah, dairy did that to me as well, including whey. Do I eat honey? No, honey is not vegan. I've done a video about honey. My Inision video talks about it. If you've seen one castle, you've seen them all. Yeah, I know a lot of them end up looking the same after a while, but for me, I just had this fascination with really old architecture. It's almost like it's just stuck in time. And I don't know, there's something, I've always had an interest in the Middle Ages, specifically the like 1000s through like the 15th century, basically. What's the minimum fat intake in a caloric deficit to obtain a healthy hormones the body functions? I wouldn't drop below 20% of your maintenance calories. So when I buy my maintenance calories, your resting maintenance calories, what you need just to function and survive. Don't let it drop below 20% of that. So for most people, that's between 14 and 16 times your lean body weight. So if you take 15 times, right in the smack in the middle, that tends to work pretty well for me. 15 times your lean body weight, that gives you a rough estimate of your maintenance calorie needs, just your basic resting maintenance calorie needs. And if you take that and you take 20% of those calories, that should be your fat intake for the day. I'll start with that. I'm just reading through the questions here. Have you ever thought about hopping on the gear? This kind of goes back to the question that I'd answered previously. Yeah, I mean, it's occurred to me. I think it's occurred to every lifter who is interested in putting on size and strength and getting lean. But like I said, when I think about the pros and the cons, I'm the kind of person who always outweighs I look at the pros and the cons and see which one outweighs the other, and what the outcome would be. Like, would it be worth it for me to go through particular cons to get to a particular pro that I want, get some outcome that I want? And I just don't see the point in getting on the gear. So yeah, I mean, it's occurred to me. I mean, but I haven't really given that a lot of thought for a number of years now. And it used to be a question of like, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? But I just don't see the point. I don't see the benefit of it for what I want to do. Like, it's not gonna, I'm not doing it for a living. I'm not a bodybuilder competitor. I'm not like a fitness model. So for what I do, I don't need the drugs, so no, while I have thought about it, no interest in taking it. What's considered high carb? Really, that's dependent on, look, I don't assign a percentage, of my calories to carbs. Like, what I do is I figure out my calorie needs for whatever my goal may be it, gaining muscle or cutting body fat or just maintaining, whatever it may be. And then what I do is I calculate my protein needs. And once I have that figured out, I subtract the calories from the total calories from those the protein calories. And then I figure out my fat needs, which is based on my maintenance needs. And then I subtract those calories from the total calories. And then whatever calories are left, that's what I put towards carbs. And, I wouldn't say it's exceptionally high. I guess it depends on how many calories I'm taking in for the day. So if I'm taking in like, if I'm in a bulking phase, which I don't really do heavy bulking phases anymore, my carb intake might be up there in the, 200 to 300 grams or more, depending on, sometimes I might boost my fat up a little more depending on how I feel. Sometimes I find that 25% of my maintenance from fat or 30% feels better at a given time. And sometimes 20% feels just fine. I will tweak to find what I find is working best for me, what feels like it's working best for me. Some of these are just troll questions I'm not even going to bother with. But yeah, I've heard natto tastes like chemicals. Just scrolling through here. Do I think we'll see a vegan or mostly vegan world in our lifetime? The hopeful answer is yes, but let's be real here. A lot of people just aren't going to be able to change like that. Look, I've met some people who can just change on the drop of a dime like that. They can just change like not like I did the same thing. Like I decided, okay, I'm going to be vegan now. I'm not going to be vegetarian. I'm going to be vegan. And that day, I just went vegan. But some people can't do that. But I will say this to you. Veganism is on an exponential growth curve currently. Like the trend data is showing that it's going straight up, and it just keeps rising and rising. So that means that we are pushing toward mainstream of veganism. At least mainstream notice. I mean, pretty much any restaurant you go to, hell, even here in Brighton, I was at a little seaside cafe after I took a swim, and they had vegan offerings on a sign. So when it comes down to it, I'm seeing veganism creeping up in places where, I'm surprised maybe 10 years ago they wouldn't even have known, what a vegetarian was, let alone a vegan. And I'm starting to see this kind of thing creep up in places. So it is getting a lot more attention, a lot more mainstream attention. And for that reason, I think, we could. I mean, let's be being hopeful. I mean, I'm sure we'll see a lot more people vegan in my lifetime, your lifetime. But a worldwide change to veganism, I don't think I'm going to see that in my lifetime, at least. But I might, But I'm just trying to be realistic here and play devil's advocate. But you know what? Whether we do or whether we don't, keep pushing the message, keep educating people, keep living by example. That's something that I do, around my friends or family. I just live by example and lead by example. And when people see that, hey, this guy's doing it and he's been doing it for a while and he's happy and he seems healthy and he's achieving the things he wants and desires, that can make all the difference, and people might give it a go. And then they'll come to you and ask you for help, and that's a perfect time for you to offer, solicited advice, where you can give them the advice they need to help them do it right, because that's very important too. Anyone who comes to you for help with this, you want them to do it right, because you don't want somebody who's going to get sick and do it wrong. I mean, a lot of people I see mess up on veganism, they were doing something wrong. It's perfectly acceptable for anyone, and according to expert dietitians, that even children. But you have to do it right. They're going to need their B12. They're going to, you have to do it right. So you have to be strategic about it. It's people who eat meat and processed foods, et cetera, things like that. They're getting a lot of these vitamins and minerals that are fortified in the animals. A lot of farm animals are fortified. So they're getting a lot of these vitamins and minerals that they need for survival through fortification of processed foods and the meat they eat and dairy and whatever else. So a lot of people that aren't vegan don't really have to think about it. Now, there are processed vegan foods like soy milks, for instance, that have fortified vitamins and minerals in them. But you still, by and large, as a vegan, you still have to do a lot more thinking, and you have to read labels, and you have to ensure you're getting enough of this, enough of that. And it doesn't mean it's difficult. It just means eat a balanced diet. That's what's really, really key there. Get your fruits, get your vegetables, ensure you have protein, that you get enough protein, enough fat in your diet as well. And avocados are a good source for that. Flax seeds are a good source for that. Things like that. So just ensure you're getting enough and enough of a balanced diet as a vegan. You can't just sit back and munch on, TV dinners and processed foods like you can when you're not a vegan, and not acquire probably some kind of a deficiency in the long run. So, yeah. What's your opinion on training max intensity for muscle growth? By max intensity, are we talking about like high intensity, like Mike Menser or Dorian Yates? I mean, let's put it this way. I train everything to failure, every working set to failure. Sometimes I go beyond failure. But generally speaking, it's just I'll do a couple warm-up sets of the first compound movement, and then I'll take everything after that once I feel warmed up. Anywhere between 2 to 4 sets per exercise to complete momentary muscular failure, and then rack the weight or put it down or whatever. And that's how I train. And I keep rest to between 1 and 2 minutes Sometimes 30 seconds, 60 seconds, depending on how many reps I did and how fast I feel like I've recovered. But generally between 1 and 2 minutes is a sweet spot. And I'll do that, and has been working for me. So I don't, if you are going to train really intensely, and intensity is definitely a relative thing. What might be hardcore to one person is like probably, weak to somebody else. And it's the same thing with the amount of weight you lift and everything. One person's going to scoff at something, and somebody else, that's challenging for them. The point is just challenge yourself. Only you know what's going to be challenging for you. So just challenge yourself and ensure that you keep progressing in the amount of weights or amount of reps that you get. I always try to tell people, either try to get another rep with the weight that you've just used the previous session, or try to get the same amount of reps with 5 more pounds or something. Try to constantly progress. That's the point. Don't stagnate. And if you do stagnate, which always inevitably happens, try to push past that, but train smart. Don't train with intensity to the point where you're just throwing weights around and you end up injuring yourself. Because some injuries can set you back for months, if not your life, if you do something damaging enough. I know people who have torn the rotator cuff who they never train the same again. So there are areas of the body like that once you damage them, that's just it. So trying to scroll through here and see what's going on here. Would I ever do a meetup in New York City? There are a lot of meetups that currently happen in New York City. There is a vegan group called the Vegans of New York. And I'm always seeing, rooftop parties and bars and dinners out and all sorts of things that they do. I've not really been to one of them. I just haven't had a lot of time for that sort of thing. And sometimes if I'm bombed, like if I've had a session or something, I just don't feel like going out to it. So yeah, I mean, like they have happened, but I haven't done it. Like, would I consider it? Sure. Yeah. I mean, I keep telling myself I'll do one of them at some point, one that's conveniently located on my schedule. But by and large, it's difficult. I've also thought of the idea of like scheduling my own vegan meetup, like just asking people, like, because I have a large Facebook following, well, relatively large. It's not. I mean, by some numbers, it's not that large, but I have like over 1,000, 200 or 300 friends. A lot of them are vegans. I can always put it out there if people want to meet up, and I can schedule something and see if people want to do it or not. And, it's worth a go. I'm reading through. Let's see here. I'm just reading through all the questions. What are my thoughts on full body programs versus split routines? I've done a video on this. I think it's called bro splits versus full body, or frequency versus bro splits, or something like that. It was an Ask Cory session. So check that out. I think that full body is a great way to train. For me, I feel that there's some exercises that when you get to a point where you become more and more advanced, I feel like to try to combat imbalances, it's a good idea to throw in additional exercises to round out your routine. Now, in a full body routine, it doesn't give you enough of a chance to do that. It will end up putting too much volume in a given session. So for me, I tend to promote push-pull legs, or upper body, lower body. So upper, lower, or I'll do push-pull legs in a more consolidated 4-day routine. So for instance, on push day, I'll have quads and calves will go along with the other push exercises. And on pull day, I'll have hamstrings and glutes and things like that. So that's another way that I've done push-pull legs, to split it up into a 4-day routine. So it's like every other. Upper lower is another great one. And all these have worked for me. The thing is, I built a foundation of size on bro splits before I knew any better. And, so I'm not saying that they're terrible. And the research does show a slight difference in bro splits versus full body. In other words, in favor of full body in muscle growth, especially in the legs. There was a more significant muscle growth in the legs than the biceps or any other part of the body. But it is still something. It's a little extra something. It's not like phenomenally massive difference. But so, I mean, if you like you know, using bro splits, then more power to you. What do I think of the vegan cheetah off of YouTube? Look, I don't like, I don't personally care for what he's doing right now. I don't, it's like a TMZ of the vegan world. It doesn't really interest me. I don't care about this gossip shit, really. I like informative content. You know, I do like some drama stuff. I like Vegan Gaines' material because he brings information into a drama setting. He does a little bit of both, kind of like with my call out videos when I started a debate with somebody in the videos, like I did with Kino Body and Elliot Hulse or somebody else. Even if they don't reply, Kino Body has, but even if the others don't reply, or Golden One, for instance, which we became friends over. I offer facts and information, so it's not just like you know, it's not just for drama's sake. I'm trying to inform and educate their followers and the person that I'm reaching out to, and pointing out where they were wrong, basically with evidence. That's my MO. That's how I do it. I'm just so many troll comments here. I'm just trying to. Somebody asked, didn't my birds poop everywhere? Yes, they did. All over the walls, all over everything. But you know what? The thing is, I loved them, and you know, they were great little animals, and I love taking care of them. And you know, I could clean it up. It's not a big deal. They shed on me a lot. Like they would, like for instance, I have a little I have a loft bed, so I would be under my bed working in my office under my bed, and the birds would sometimes fly under there and land on my shoulder. And I thought they were just coming for some attention while I'm working, and no, they took a big shit on my shoulder and then flew off. Sometimes they would shit on my shoulder, scream in my ear, and then fly off. So, they can do that. Birds can be little assholes sometimes, but I love my birds, so you know, I would do it again and again and again. Let's see here. Let's see. Birds are horrifying, someone says. Okay. I don't find them horrifying. How do I get my iodine? It is in some green vegetables. I believe it's in strawberries, if I'm not mistaken, iodine. Those are ways you can get it. I also take a multivitamin every day just for insurance, and there's iodine in the multi. I know that seaweed has multivitamin. I mean, sorry, has iodine in it. Like in kelp, for instance. Not that I eat seaweed or anything like that, but I mean, sometimes I'll have those little Japanese snacks. It's like crispy salted seaweed strips, but you know, but yeah, I guess it would be mostly from like the greens and the strawberries that I eat, and also from my multivitamin. That would be the way that I get it. How do I avoid palm oil? It's hard when I eat a lot of bread. I do make bread, but I work crazy hours and I'm really tired from work. You know, some companies have this certified sustainability thing where they're not like, it doesn't come from certain areas, I guess. I don't know how it's produced. But you know, you can always read the back of a product list to avoid palm oil. Or you can cook with something other than palm oil. You know, there are products that are palm oil free. You know, just I guess to shop around. I don't really eat a lot of processed foods, so it doesn't really concern me too much. Like, I guess if I was eating a lot of processed foods, I would look at the label and see. But when I want junk food, like for instance, when I want, say, like, I don't know, to French fries, or if I want to make a cake, I'll bake, you know, my own cake, my own donuts. In fact, like I said, I just made a vegan cheesecake recently, and that vegan cheesecake, you know, I made from scratch, and I'll be doing a video on that. I did it when I was in London. But yeah, I mean, just read the labels, I guess. I don't know, but just don't eat processed foods. Make your own stuff when you have a moment, I guess. That's my advice I can offer you there. I'm getting 3,000 calories a day, but I'm still not gaining weight. Any tips on getting enough food in? If you're eating 3,000 calories a day and your macros are all set up properly for you to gain weight for what you're doing, and you're not gaining weight, and you're not gaining any kind of weight, you're obviously eating too few calories for your body and your exertion. daily exertion. So I would say up the calories slowly to find your sweet spot. Ensure you're getting enough protein if your goal is muscle growth. Ensure your fat is in line with basic health needs. And that's really it. But for people who have trouble getting a lot of food down, my recommendation is shakes. I don't think people should be living off shakes, but if you need to get food down, you can create nutritional replacement shakes, for instance. A good way to do that, for instance, if you take like some almond milk or rice milk or coconut milk or something, throw in some bananas, throw in some peanut butter, that's maybe some chocolate, like some dark chocolate, some vegan dark chocolate, and blend that up, and that'll give you a real calorie dense protein shake, and that might help you fit in some extra calories that way. I mean, liquid calories are easier to get down than solid. Dylan asks, Cory, I want to ask how I can cook foods like tofu, seitan, tempeh, and other protein sources without the use of oil. You can use cooking spray. I use cooking spray. When I'm not using an oil, I'll use a cooking spray. You can also sometimes just saute in water, but it will dry up pretty quickly, so you might have to add some more in, stoke it again, and mix it in. But cooking spray works fine for me. Recomp or the traditional method of bulking and cut. Okay, what's most effective? I personally prefer recomping when it comes to gaining weight. It depends on where you're at. If you're just starting out, maybe a slight bulk without going overboard, because there's no sense in going really, really overboard in calories, but like maybe 10, 20% over your maintenance calories, and bulking would work fine. And then like, cutting, doing little microcycles of cutting and bulking together or something, you can try that. I gave up on the old bulking cutting thing a long time ago. I mostly just eat around maintenance, or I'll eat like a recomp type situation. That's really what I do now. Or when I'm on a trip, I don't really watch my calories at all, really. These last, few weeks have been, I've not been watching my calorie intake. Oh yeah. I mean, I have been trying to, but I will allow myself to, if I see something nice, I'll give it a treat. I was just in Lewis, for instance, the other day. That's Lewes, and there was a health shop, like a health food shop, and they had vegan cake, carrot cakes, toffee cakes, all sorts of cakes actually. And I had a slice of vegan carrot cake. And I don't regret it, So when it's like I'm on trips, so I want to enjoy myself a little bit too. But that being said, I do have a daily meal plan that I do eat. So, but I will allow myself to have a bit over that if I see something nice. Like when I was in London, I had Cookies and Scream. I had Loving Hut. I went to Mildred's once. I did all these one time, and I tried this new bakery out that's in London. It's in the Camden area. It's called Buttercream Dreams. And they're vegan, home-baked products, and it's really good. I personally liked Cookies and Scream more. Oh, and I also had a new vegan ice cream parlor, and I'll be doing a video review of this. Has just opened up called Eureka, and it's just off of it's on Wardour Street, just off of I want to say it's off of Oxford Street. I might be wrong there. I think it's off Oxford Street. I would get off at Tottenham Court Road Station, walk up Oxford, I believe. Look, I'm not from London, so bear with me. And then I would turn off to Wardour Street, Wardour, and Eureka is on that street, and it's a vegan ice cream parlor. It's really good, but I'll be doing a review on that, so stay tuned for that with photographs and everything. So yeah, I mean, like I stick to my diet, but then I'll have little treats. What's my favorite go-to meal? Tofu and broccoli, or tofu and spinach with some fruit inside, I would say. Trying to, yeah, front squats are definitely, I guess, harder for some people than back squats. You have to use less weight. Like my front squat number is nowhere near my back squat number. Tara and I met on a nutrition forum actually a long time ago, but I spend time in UK, and she spends time in New York City, and we've gone back and forth that way. Am I still low carb? No, I am. I'm just on a regular bodybuilding type setup, like where I calculate my protein needs, calculate my fat needs, and let the rest of my calories go towards carbs. I will occasionally go into a ketogenic style diet, but it's not something that I don't like how flat I look on them, so I kind of avoid that. Am I religious or spiritual? I'm not religious. My folks are Christian, born again Christians, I guess you could say. But I don't. I'm too. I guess I need evidence for that sort of thing. I guess you could say I'm spiritual, I suppose. I do like a lot of Buddhist philosophies. I'm not Buddhist, but I do like the sound of a lot of Buddhist philosophies. Just for ways to structure your life, I suppose. But I'm not. I'm not religious, certainly, and I guess I'm spiritual. Should you cut or bulk with 60% body fat? I would say recomp. That's just what I would say. What are my thoughts about Freely the Banana Girl and Vegan Gains and their pretty aggressive way of promoting vegan lifestyle? Okay, I've said this before, that I think that everyone has a way they're going to react best to. Some people, I guess they respond best to having something kind of pounded into them, whereas others need to be educated. Like myself, I like people to come at me with the facts, and when I'm wrong about something, I'm wrong about something. And if the facts present themselves and I see that I am wrong about something, I learn, I change, my opinion changes on things. And that's so, I think that it's important to have always the nice, friendly way of promoting veganism, the cold hard factual way of promoting veganism, and then of course the more aggressive approach, because there's somebody that's going to respond to all of these, and you don't know who you're going to encounter. So it's good to have all these methods out there, because it allows us to reach different kinds of people who may not respond well the other ways. So the more people we can reach with veganism, the better, I think. Keep it up. Let's see. I'm just trying to go through this. There's a lot of stuff that's being repeated here. Trying not to miss things, but so many people are having conversations in the chat too. What are my thoughts on MMA? I think it's great. I'm a traditional martial artist, so and that's not to say that I don't do full contact fighting, where some traditional martial arts don't, because I do study Kyokushin, but I have no problem with the MMA. I think that it's great. I do think it's lacking in the philosophy side of things. This is my own personal opinion. The philosophy side of things that can help make a person grow, that you can find in traditional martial arts. But there's no reason why you can't do both. There's no reason why somebody who studies MMA can't take up karate or taekwondo, but I would say karate over taekwondo, or jiu-jitsu, like traditional jiu-jitsu, or really anything, kung fu, anything they'd like to take up. If it's going to enrich their life, there's nothing wrong with enriching your life. And I think that the traditional martial arts offer a little something that the MMA doesn't, because MMA is more geared towards the sports side of things, the competitive side of things. And even Kyokushin is geared more towards the fighting aspect of karate, and not so much the philosophical side of things. And my base was in Okinawan karate, so I came from that philosophical side and went into the Kyokushin side of things. But it's really, I don't have any. I have nothing against MMA. I think it's great. I think that people learning how to defend themselves and learning how to fight is a great thing, and toughening up. You learn so much about yourself fighting, and you can only really learn that by being hit and hitting back. To be perfectly honest, that's my opinion on that. And I mentioned this before, that you really don't know how well you can apply your technique until you're against a live resisting person. I mean, that's the best way to learn, if you have absorbed the knowledge that's been bestowed upon you in a martial art. And this is why I don't like martial arts schools that don't have some kind of freestyle sparring. Now, I don't care if it's like Taekwondo where they have people in pads, like for children, for instance, but some kind of freestyle sparring where you're dealing with a live resisting person who is unpredictable and attacking you, and you have to evade and retaliate. You know, the only way you can learn that is through repetition of doing it. And that's why I advise that. Now, I'm not saying go out there and get yourself crippled, you know, but, you know, there's nothing wrong with the MMA. There's nothing wrong with any martial art. I just think that there should be some kind of application. How important is caffeine to your days and workouts? Okay, I've diminished caffeine. In fact, I haven't had coffee the entire time I've been in England. And it hasn't, I'm kind of immune to the effects of caffeine when it comes to the energy and being awake, the stimulant effects of caffeine. I don't feel those. I always took coffee as a strength aid because there's research to show that it can help to some degree. Now, it's not drug-like, but it can help to some degree, even though caffeine is technically a drug, I guess. But it can help to some degree with strength. And but I haven't had it for a while. I've replaced it, and at home, I'll have caffeine in the morning when I wake up sometimes. But you know, because there's health benefits apparently according to research to coffee, longevity and anti-cancer benefits. Yeah, I haven't had it before a workout in a long, long time. I've been using beetroot juice instead. Somebody asked, there's a lot of drama in the vegan community recently, and what's my take on all this? I did a video, check it out. It's one of my more recent videos. It's called "You're Not Fucking Helping Veganism," and that gives my opinion on the matter. And I'm not really gonna get into it again. Like and that's one of the reasons I don't like the Vegan Cheetahs channel the way it currently is because it's just like a TMZ of the vegan world, and it's, you know, that's so unhelpful. I mean, I think it's really unhelpful. I mean, it's just gossip, and that's kind of, I don't know, rise above that, you know, people. Learn something that's going to be useful to you. You know, that's my opinion on that. I think that the drama is a waste of time. There's a time and a place for drama, and I think the kind of drama that's good is calling out people who are speaking stupid shit about veganism and educating them. Let's see here. I'm just scrolling through the comments here. What is my opinion about creatine for a 16-year-old kid? And is creatine more effective for vegans? I haven't seen any. I've seen research on creatine being used in children at really high doses for sustained periods of time, and I've never seen any negative effects associated with creatine, as long as ample water intake is being paired along with it. Bear in mind that creatine, its mode of transport is water, and so it's important to drink that, and also just to flush through your system too, in case there is any kind of stress on the kidneys, for instance. Not that I'm saying there is, but in case there is, or I guess if you have some kind of pre-existing problem and your doctor's saying stay away from it, then do so. I never advise you go against what your doctor orders if you have a medical problem, a genuine medical problem. But as for creatine being more effective for vegans, there has been research that shows that in vegans and vegetarians, creatine improves cognitive abilities significantly. So taking creatine does improve cognitive abilities, and I believe it was retention, knowledge retention is one of them. But really, you can just dose 5 grams of creatine a day, monohydrate, which is cheap as all hell, and take it like a multivitamin if you want. And if you're going to take it around your workout, take it post-workout. Research has shown that creatine is more effective post-workout than it is pre-workout. How to cook good vegan food. I can't cook vegan if my life depends on it, someone says. Get cookbooks. There's a lot of great vegan cookbooks. Experiment. I mean, I don't consider myself a master chef, but I experiment. I find something that works, and I find things that don't work, and I just don't do them again. Most of my fuck-ups have occurred when I've tried baking as a vegan. I've made some pretty awful vegan baked goods before. I tried one year using vegan eggnog and baking cookies with vegan eggnog, and it just did not work out. Anyway, this computer is about to cut out. It's actually warning me that it's going to cut, so I'm going to have to end the live event here, I think. Sorry. We've been running for probably a little over an hour now. You know, maybe I'll do another one in the future. So if you guys enjoyed this, I can do another one in the future. With that, I'm gonna sign off now, and I will see you guys later.